Okay, now we can move on to the brakes. Now, with the brakes, they sort of go inside the final drive, and here is my old brake actuator, and you can see this would have had a, I'll just put this on here, this would have had an actuator something like that comes out the front through the brake pedal and through here, and the brake pedal pulls on that, which in turn pulls on this, and then when this gets pulled you can see that that gets fatter, and because that's jammed in a housing so wide, when you pull the brake on, that gets fatter, and it then jams these brake discs into the side. So one sits against this side, one sits against the other side, and as you pull the brake on, the axle is in here. So you pull the brake on, this puts pressure from expanding, this puts pressure on that plate and forces it out, one side against the housing where the plate runs and the other side on the diff side of it. So it just jams it between two plates. So these can be reconditioned. I'm not going to in this case, but you have these little springs, and you can see these little springs here, and they're the return springs that hold it shut. So if I put this back in here, and you can see if I pull that, it opens up, but then the springs bring it back down narrow again, so it's not fat. So, but when we open this one up, I just opened this one up to show you, and that's what's inside. So it's a ball and ramp setup. Now you can see where the balls go in here, they sit here. Then as you pull this around, this one goes that way, the ball runs up the ramp there. So you can see as the ball comes up the ramp, it gets fatter. So over time, these balls get flats on them. The balls are usually harder than the cast iron here, and these ramps get worn. Most of the time these get thrown out because of heat cracks in through the surface here, and I'm just not going to use these ones. I have new ones there that I'd ordered ages and ages ago, but I just thought I'd do a quick little clip there on just how they worked. And in our restoration, I'll be putting these new Sparex ones in. I can't think of the part number. It might be here, 40829 probably, S40829. And because of the yoke, this is the yoke, these get worn, and mine had the bolt broken off or cut off and all that. So we're going to put a new set of yokes on as well. We're using the old pin. So I'll just shift these out of the way. Out of the way can be just down there. So how it all works, I'll just explain roughly how it works. When you pull on this fella here, oh, who done that up? So this pulls on that makes this fatter. So these are the old plates, and these plates over time, if the axle seals leak, you have a seal from the final drive end and you have a seal from the diff, and if these get oil in them, they do one or two things. When you pull the brake on, they either get slippery and won't stop you at all, or they get sticky. And you can see these rivets have no holes through them, and if that's all sealed around there, they act like a sort of a suction cup. And sometimes you'll put your brake on and these will stick to the outside, to the axle. This will go narrow and these will want to be stuck on still. So it can be either way. But with these plates here, I'm going to run through putting new linings on these old plates. Now, you have one plate each side, so when it gets fatter it jams the plates out. So look, this is a simple enough job. This used to be the apprentice's job when I was a young bloke. Now you can buy a full set of new linings for them. One part number does one side, so there's 4 linings here, and so that'll do one side of the tractor. So you need 2 of those, and the part number S4162. So Queensland Tractor Spares have got them. I'll try and put a link in if I can. Now, to do that, now this is the same brand tool I had as a young man, Coxhead Hollow Riv, and look, all it is, it's a G-clamp. It's got an anvil down the bottom there, and the anvil sits on the bottom of the rivet, and this punch is a star punch. That comes down the top and you smack the rivet and that opens it up. This one here, it's just a solid round one with it's got like an indent for the rivet, and if you're riveting a clutch lining on, this anvil here will support the back of the rivet. This one here, if it's going on metal, you probably should use this one. If you're going onto another, like a brake lining, you would use the star one, and you can see the star pattern in the rivets there. So this one would have been used like that. So you can buy, if you don't want to find the tool and buy the tool, you can buy these S40832s. Every brand will have one, and they're new discs already riveted, and you'll notice the holes through them, so they're less likely to suck on. But I'm not going to use that. I have it here. I just thought I'd show you because I had it here. In your rivet kit, you get enough rivets to do both plates, and that's the back of the rivet, and you can see they're a hollow rivet, and being a hollow rivet, when you smack it with the star one, it just spreads out and away you go. So the first job you have to do is get these rivets out. So we'll run through that. There's 2 ways. One way is to drill the top out here, and then they just punch out and the lining comes off easily. But I used to find out in the bush sometimes I didn't have that. They'd send you out to do a job and you didn't have a bloody drill. And this is in the days, I'm that old, that this is in the days when there wasn't any Makita or Milwaukee drills or anything like that. And so what we would do then, I'd have a punch sharpened up, and it'd be so long and it'd have a taper on it, and it was sharp enough to go down through the middle there, and as it pushed it out, it would cut the top off the rivet and do that. So I'm going to see if I can replicate that now. I don't know what I've done with the punch, but I think we'll have a look and see if we can make one, just to show you that to get them apart you don't need the tool. Now, to get them back on again, to get it re-riveted, if we didn't have something like that, we would just have a pin punch. And look, from memory, I think we used to use 5/16 or 3/8, and you'd put that in the vise and you'd have it just sticking up enough so the vise could support this. You could sit that on the top, and then you'd come down and you'd smack that about a bit if you could. Now, Steiner Tractor Parts, they sell a riveting kit, Steiner out of America. I know for sure that Queensland Tractor Spares stock that one. I'll try and put a link in here if I can, or a picture at least. But this here, yeah, this is the same. And look, I bought a heap of tools off an old fella that had retired recently, and bugger me dead, one of these was in it. So I was a bit excited to have that. So that's why we're doing the riveting. That's where we're going to have a go anyway. So, okay, let's see if I can get a punch made for these. Okay, now I'm not 100% sure, but I think this might be my old punch. And it's just a small pin punch, and you'll see I've put a taper on it. I can't remember putting a point on it, but look, I must have done. So look, all we do, you find the starry side of it, sit one on plate on top of the other. My old mate Jeff will love it on belt and stuff again. And there's your old rivet. So we can work our way around. Might try and straighten that a little bit. Yep. The other way of doing this is you get a drill that's bigger than the hole there, and you just take the top off, and then you still have to punch them out anyway, but that one's out. I'll try and make it so I'm not hitting on there. So I think they're all out that side. We'll bring him over to the other way now. Can you see that? It's going out anyway. So that should be it. There we go. The lining's off. Now what I'm going to do with this, I'm going to go and sandblast this. Now the reason is to clean, you can see inside the splines there are quite, look a little bit rusty still, and any bits of rust and coarseness here, I'll just clean all that off. So when I put the new linings on, the flat surface of the linings, it has a slightly rough surface to bite onto, so the linings don't want to move on the rivets. So what we need to do first up though, we'll get rid of all these rivets. We'll do this next one just so I can go and work on it. Probably what I want you to notice too is, see these two are facing upwards and that one's facing down. So you've got two going up this way, the next one we have two down and one up. Now, does that matter a lot? Oh, look, probably not. But does it hurt having them like that? No. Look at that, I banged that one into my bench. So what have we got? Two going, one, oh, a couple here, one here. Flip him over and do these two. The punch keeps getting a little bent as I go, so I just got to tune it a little bit. So there you go, that's as easy as it is with the linings. You can see that hole there's about 4 millimeters. If you want to drill the rivets out, you can. Okay, I've got my little clamp set up here in the vise, and you'll notice that I've put 3 rivets in coming this way, and I've just put them in loosely just to hold everything in place. So they're not tight yet. You can see they're not bashed over properly yet. They're just in there so I can move things around and get rivets in to make sure they're all in. Now, we have a problem with the rivets. So in your Sparex S4162, brake lining kit from Sparex, when you count the holes here, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. So 18 and 18 is 36. They have 29 rivets in the kit. So I thought, oh, you know, perhaps that one had been open for a while, I'd lost some. So in here, I actually opened a brand new one. I just cut this here to count them. And they've got the same amount, 29. So I've been off to the parts book now to have a look, and the parts book has 6 lots of 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lots of 3, 18. So what I'm going to do just to finish this video off is I'm going to take some out of this kit, and then I'm going to have to go on the hunt and see if I can buy the correct rivets for it. But at the moment, yeah, no rivets. So anyway, so look, all we got to do is we put a rivet in the hole. You can see the little anvil there. We try and centralise it if we can. You can sort of feel where it's pretty close to centre. And you just start it off like that. That can go a lot further yet, that one. So you can see that one there. It's not too bad. What I used to do sometimes, if I wasn't happy with that, I'd put the round one in and just try and flatten it a bit. But look, it's probably not the right thing to do, but I'll show you on this one anyway. And that just flattened it out a little bit. But look, that's all we're going to do is run around there. Because it's going onto a lining surface. Now, it's important, don't go too hard with them. Once they've opened up nicely like that, leave them alone. You can crack the sides out of them and things like that. And look, it's a bit harder on these ones, but I know on the TEA 20s and the 35s, 135s, it's easy to do. So there you go. So I'll work my way around this. I'll get them done and I'll come back and show you when I'm done. Okay, there you go. That's a riveted panel. And I had to get rivets out of the other kit. Now, this one that Sparex supplies, it has 18. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 18. So it has 18 there as well. So I don't know, if you buy the Sparex brand, count the rivets. Now, the other thing I had to do here was I had to get, look, I think that's a 4mm drill. And when I got all the centre holes lined up, some of the outer holes weren't quite lined up, so I just popped a drill through. Now, if you just try and push rivets through, you end up breaking a little piece out, so you can't do that. So I just drilled each hole just to make sure there was a proper space for a rivet. And you can see sometimes the rivets are on the inside of the hole. And that's because of that. Now, that won't worry at all. That won't affect it at all. Look, that'll do with the brakes just at the moment. We'll call it quits there. When I put the side plate on and put this in, and I actually have to work on this fella yet. I think this pin in here is seized solid, so I have to get that organised. I do have a new rubber for here, but yeah, that'll maybe the next video, freeing all this up and getting it all in. But for the moment, that's your brake actuators. Now, when you put these on the axle, and even inside there, you leave the balls dry. Now, I had a boss one time that put grease on them, it wasn't a worry. And I also had another boss one time that said use graphite powder. And look, I'm in favour of using the graphite powder on the splines and on the balls. So when they open up, they run up the ramp freely. And it's the benefit of the graphite is that any brake dust doesn't get caught in it. So brake dust and grease, it ends up being a hard, sticky mess of a thing to deal with, especially if you get a bit of oil leaking in there. So yeah, look, I'd probably suggest graphite if you have it available. So there you go. That's the brakes so far.